and to report to the Congress the results of that review about what the strategic landscape looks like, what the capabilities that the United States forces and agencies are developing, and to make an assessment of where we are and where we need to go. In the Defense Authorization Act of 2008, some very, very visionary senators, led in a bipartisan way by former Senator John Warner from Virginia, and at the time Senator Hillary Clinton from New York, put language in there to require the Department of Defense in this quadrennial defense review that is just coming to its final conclusion to look at the role of climate change and energy security in terms of the roles, missions, and installations of the Department of Defense. That report will be out and reported by the Secretary of Defense to Congress on the 1st of February. And we are looking forward from a military advisory board standpoint to seeing exactly what that says. More importantly than a report, every one of the services is doing tremendous things to reduce their carbon boot print, in one sense, to reduce their consumption of electricity in a wasteful way. In fact, in August of this past year, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Jim Conway, sent an energy audit team into the combat zone in South Afghanistan to take a look at ways of lightening the fuel burden that requires hundreds of trucks traveling hundreds of miles through enemy country, vulnerable to roadside bombs and attacks, and taking a lot of perfectly good soldiers and Marines to protect them, and unfortunately not always successful at doing that. And as a result of that, the audit team came back. The Marine Corps is already putting in alternative energy solutions, energy efficiency, water in situ water production facilities that will in fact help to lighten that expeditionary load, as are all of the services. The Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, in October of this year said, by 2016 we are going to deploy a green battle group. That is, an aircraft carrier, all of the escorts and support ships, and all of the helicopters and airplanes on it that are going to be either powered by nuclear power, the aircraft carrier, and by some sort of bio-based fuel by 2016. Army, Air Force, all doing some very, very good things. And of course, for many years, decades literally, in the bases, stations, and training posts of all of the military, there's been a movement to get ever more energy and water efficient in all of the services. So this is underway. It has to increase in intensity and really pick up momentum because, as you point out, the military, whether they're old crusty admirals and generals talking to wonderful people in Cleveland, or whether they are in uniform doing the best they can to squeeze every bit of combat effectiveness out of every bit of energy, we have a key leadership role to play, and I really appreciate your insight.
Any other questions? I have one for you, Admiral. Could you tell us about the status of wind energy in the United States? When you go to Europe, you see an awful lot of wind turbines, and especially what you would think of wind energy production for here in Cleveland, because we sit on a Great Lake.
I think it's a great opportunity that's just waiting to be seized. And I wouldn't grab a small portion of it. I'd go for the whole thing, because there is a nice wind pattern here along Lake Erie. And furthermore, using that technology and industrial base that I talked about that Ohio has such richness in, building manufacturing capability for windmill turbine blades and generators and stanchions, the whole structure. Right here at Lakeside, you could populate in appropriate places, considering all of the other environmental and vista concerns, a tremendous amount of wind energy in a wind farm here. Furthermore, I found out that you can go from this lake to anywhere in the world via water. And putting those big blades and those turbines on barges or ships and heading them northeast out to the Atlantic and into anywhere in the world that you want to go, or anywhere in the nation that you want to go, it would seem to me would be an economic opportunity that could be waiting for Ohio and Cleveland to seize.
Admiral, you spoke about the shortage of the availability of energy generated by carbon sources, but another shortage that was referred to is water. And do you strategically think about global warming and how that will affect climate shifts in such a way as to what parts of the world will be affected and the impact on the people? I mean, you referred to it in a general sense, but are there specific plans as to what those kinds of tensions will produce for the military and what kind of battles we'll be fighting in 10 or 15 years?
One of the key concerns that we have from a military strategy perspective is what is happening to glaciers around the world. There's been a tremendous amount of glacial retreat. I talked to Professor Lonnie Thompson down at Ohio State, runs the Bird Center, and has at any moment 56 teams out taking ice core samples all on every continent, literally, of the world. And in the case of one of these glacial formations, the Himalayas, up in the Hindu Kush, it is called the third pole, with an ice cap that rivals the South and North Pole, at least in glaciology terms. And the retreat of that has been measured very, very precisely for a number of years, and there are a lot of concerns because it is Asia's water tower. It is the source of 4 major rivers that provide life-giving water for agriculture and for all of the human needs in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India, and in China. Very, very heavily populated. 3 of those nations happen to be nuclear-armed nations. All of them have historical tensions. Some of them have some very, very challenging, in the case of Pakistan, internal unrest and instability that would be exacerbated and intensified by intermittent water supplies. Either way, way too much water during the monsoon, putting all of that rain that isn't captured by the glacier but goes surging down those valleys, or not enough in the dry season when those rivers dry up. And I think that is a scenario that causes us concern. We need to not just look at that area, but we need to look at all areas and these potential effects of climate change and figure out what can we do to prevent, to mitigate, and adapt to these effects of climate change.
Thank you. Today at the City Club, we have been listening to a Friday Forum featuring Admiral Dennis McGinn, Chairman and CEO of Remote Reality. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.